If I don't marry before 30, I'll be falling behind. All my mates are getting married. They're building houses. I need to take this job now so I can save 10 million before I'm 40. I want to be retired by 45. Why are you running? Why do most of us feel like we need to make a decision right now? Like, if we don't move quickly, we're going to miss something. If I don't say yes to this opportunity immediately, then the opportunity will disappear. If I don't have it all figured out at my age, then I'm behind. And this feeling of urgency that you feel is so intense that you actually believe that this feeling of urgency means something. You think to yourself that if I'm feeling this way, then maybe it's a sign. Maybe this pressure means I need to move forward. Maybe this anxiety that I feel is direction. But my dear, what if it's not direction? What if it is your fear moving loudly? Hi, I'm Pearl, and this is Living with Intention, where we talk about a life that feels meaningful and not just productive. I say that catchphrase a lot, but I really want us to think about that sentence for a second. Life is more than a box ticking exercise of achievements. It truly needs to be lived. So if you're tired of just being in the passenger seat of your life and you want to seize back control, then this channel is God sent to you, because currently we're talking about a theme called practical wisdom for self-evolution. And our topic today is such a powerful topic that touches on our discernment and is something that confuses a lot of us. And that is urgency versus direction. Because not everything you feel like you urgently need to do is divine guidance. Sometimes that urgency is just pressure. Sometimes it's just fear. Sometimes it's comparison. Sometimes it's the panic of you feeling like you're running out of time. And if you're not careful, urgency can have you moving quickly in a direction you were never meant to take. And what's that popular saying again? Speed in the wrong direction is a disadvantage. Yes, discernment sometimes operates as a gift, something that you just naturally have. But I also think it's a skill that can be honed. And in this video today, I want to teach you how to discern between urgency and direction. One thing I've been learning recently is that urgency is very, very loud. And the pressure is so intense that you actually start to hear nothing else. It rushes you. It makes you feel like you have no time to think. Like every decision is a crisis. But you see direction. Direction, on the other hand, is a much stealthier feeling. Yes, it may still require courage and it may stretch you. It may ask you to move. But direction is not a bully. Direction has a kind of clarity to it, even if you don't necessarily have the full picture. You just know what you're meant to be doing part time. Urgency feels like if you don't do this, every single thing will fall apart. Direction feels like this is the next step. Take it with wisdom. And guys, sometimes the most mature thing you can do for yourself is to slow down. To slow down enough to ask, this decision I'm about to make, is it about conviction or is it just me panicking? Because just because panic feels powerful does not mean it's purposeful. I'm talking about this topic today because when I look back at some of the decisions that I make, and I don't ever look back at my decisions with regret, only with the view to actually learn and do better moving forward. But as I look back on those decisions, I think to myself that my mindset at the time of making that decision was I had no other option. I had no other choice. But what I learned looking back was that I did have other options and I did have other choices. But the urgency of fear, the urgency of comparison was pushing me and bullying me until I made that decision. And that is what I'm trying to avoid for you today. Now, I'm going to talk about where this false urgency comes from. You see, false urgency can come from a number of places. Social media. On social media, you see people getting married, you see people building houses, jack buying, starting new businesses, buying cars, and posting all their wins online. And subconsciously, all these timelines from your colleagues start to create pressure in your spirit. Suddenly, you don't care anymore about your own timeline and your own progress. You want evidence, you want proof proof that you're not behind, proof that your life is actually moving forward, proof that you are becoming someone. Other times, it's not comparison, it's fear. A door opens to you, and that fear comes in. That even if the opportunity is way below what you deserve and way below your value, if you don't take this opportunity, another one will never come. Fear that if you say no, people will be disappointed and they won't like you. Fear that if you wait too long, you will lose your chance. Fear that any single delay in your life means you're failing. And sometimes urgency can come from old patterns. If you want to learn more about how our patterns shape the outcome of our lives, then you should go and watch the first video that I posted in this series. It will shed a lot of light. But these patterns become something you're used to, and you feel the urgency to continue down that line. So even when life gives you space, even when life wants you to slow down before making that choice, your nervous system can handle it. Your nervous system keeps saying, move, do something, hurry, or you will lose out. But honestly, not every voice telling you to hurry is wisdom. Not every voice telling you to hurry is you taking your life seriously. Sometimes it's just the echo of pressure. I really don't come on this channel and talk about anything that I haven't experienced in my personal life. And for a very long time, what I was calling purpose was pressure. This is where it gets tricky, right? Because pressure can be very, very responsible. It has the appearance of you being responsible and you not wasting your time or your life. So for me, pressure looked like me writing in my journal and saying, you're not getting any younger. You should have gone further in your career by now. Everybody else is moving forward. You can't afford to wait. This is what serious people do with their lives. Uime, you need to be realistic. And because these statements sound very mature, we don't even bother to question them. But guys, pressure and purpose are not the same thing. Yes, your purpose can challenge you, but it will never make you abandon your peace. Yes, your purpose will stretch you, but it will never make you betray your values. Yes, your purpose requires sacrifice, but it does not inspire self-abandonment. So you go ahead and you take that job because you're afraid that nothing better will come. You stay in that relationship because you're afraid to start over. You overcommit yourself because you don't want to disappoint people. You rush that decision because you don't want to fall behind. And then 3 years into the job, 4 more years into the relationship, when the overwhelm literally has its foot on your neck and you're about to die, you now realize, oh my God, I didn't choose this from alignment. I chose it from a place of anxiety. This is why discernment matters, because the whole idea of you rushing that decision was because you didn't want to waste time. But there's nothing that wastes more time than you not being aligned. That's why you see 25 years of your life, 30 years of your life gone down the drain towards something you were actually never supposed to be doing. So sometimes a rushed yes can be more expensive than a patient no. Just because everything falls into a place and one door is open to you and suddenly an opportunity is made available does not mean that you're moving in alignment. That opportunity that you weren't expecting comes to you, and so we just assume that we should take it. Someone asks you to do something and you just feel this need that you must say yes. So you start to give yourself excuses as to why you can make time in an already fully tight schedule. A door opens to us and it's like, oh, God must be leading me through this door. Hallelujah. But sometimes an open door is simply an option, and wisdom is knowing the difference between access and assignment. Just because you have the ability to do something doesn't mean you have to do it. And just because something is urgent for someone else doesn't mean it's urgent for you. I, for one, know what it's like to have an abundance of ability. I don't know what it is about me, but it almost feels like there's nothing that I do that wouldn't end up well or good, or at least compete. And I say that with the most modesty that I can muster. But it's also a curse, right? Because there's so many strings pulling at you in different directions. And in that noise, it's kind of hard to know, what should I actually be doing in this moment? This is where intentional living stops being a theory and becomes practical. That's when you begin to ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does this support the season that I'm in? Is this a wise yes, or is it fear-based yes? Am I being led, or am I being rushed? Do I have peace, or do I simply just feel pressure? You might not get an immediate answer to these questions, but it creates space for wisdom to instruct you. And sometimes that space is exactly what that fake urgency is trying to steal from you. Funny enough, what really helped me was knowing the difference between God's voice and the voice of the devil. So the Bible actually says that when God is speaking, his voice is a still small voice that you can miss if you're not actually paying attention. And I have experienced that. But when we see the devil speak, we see pressure. If you are the son of God, turn this stone into bread. Has God commanded you not to eat of any tree in the garden? There's that pressure where you question yourself, you question who you are, you question whether an opportunity like this will ever come again, and you feel that fear rising on the inside of you. God's leading is not the same as the fear of pressure. In my devotional today, I happened to read the book of James chapter 1, and I had to stop in verse 5 where it was talking about, if any one of you lacks wisdom, ask of God, who gives liberally and without reproach. What that meant to me is that God actually knows that there are seasons in our lives and times in our lives where we really don't know what we're supposed to be doing. And so he tells us, don't panic that you don't know what to do. Ask me for wisdom. The Bible says, trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him and he will direct your path. That tells me something very important. God is able to direct me when I'm making a decision. Sometimes we want God to give us immediate clarity. You just want to pray, go down on your knees and pray and just know every single step you have to take and the end result of how everything is going to turn out. This is because we as human beings have trained ourselves to be uncomfortable with waiting. We're uncomfortable with not knowing the big picture, with not knowing the full picture, with not knowing how things will end. But guys, waiting is not wasted time. There's so much you can learn in a waiting season. Sometimes that season is when your motives are purified and you start to ask yourself, why do I actually want this? Sometimes waiting is where fear loses its grip because the deadline comes and nothing happens. That deadline of 30 comes, you're not a millionaire and nothing happens. Your life doesn't come crashing down. Sometimes in that waiting season is when wisdom becomes clearer. You start to see things clearly, hear things clearly. You're following this inner compass that's already on the inside of you and it's directing you clearly. And when God is leading you, or whoever you believe in, your inner compass, your inner voice, when it's leading you, it may move you quickly, yes, but God doesn't manipulate you through panic. His direction comes with conviction. It's not rooted in fear, it's not rooted in confusion, and it's not rooted in pressure. God leads you with wisdom. Fear rushes you with anxiety. And so we need discernment to know the difference between urgency and direction. Now, I want to be very clear. Slowing down does not mean I'm championing laziness or I'm telling you to do nothing forever. Slowing down is not an excuse for procrastination or for avoidance or for another form of fear that disguises itself like patience. There is a difference between waiting out of patience and delaying out of fear. The goal is not for you to become passive. It's for you to become more discerning. So when that urgency rises up the next time after you've watched this video, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what is actually driving this urgency? Is it a real deadline? Or am I just creating emotional pressure? Which option would I choose if I wasn't trying to prove anything? Do I need to make this decision now? Or is this something that I need to pause on, pray, and seek good advice on before I make that decision? After you pause and ask these questions, you can then move with clarity. Not because you're being chased by fear, but because you're being led by wisdom. And that is the difference. So if you've been feeling rushed lately in your life, I want you to remember this. Not every urgent feeling is divine direction. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's comparison. Sometimes it's pressure. Sometimes it's an old pattern that just wants you to keep moving in the same direction without reflection. But wisdom is learning to pause long enough to ask, is this urgency moving me further towards alignment or further away from myself? Because the right direction doesn't always come with speed. Sometimes it comes in the place of stillness. Sometimes it comes after prayer. Sometimes it comes with patience. And other times it comes when you don't know the full picture, but you're clear on the very next step you're meant to take. I told you that throughout this series, I'm going to end each video with a question that I want you to truly reflect on. So this week's question goes like this. Where in your life are you currently confusing urgency for direction? This video resonated with you. Let me know in the comments. You guys are always avoiding my comment section. There's no Ebola there. There's no coronavirus. There's no hantavirus there. And if you're interested in more conversation on practical wisdom for self-evolution, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because wisdom is more than just moving forward. It's about learning what is leading you. Like this video if anything I said is something you're going to be applying to your own life. And until I come your way next time, bye.